I'm good. How are you all?
Doing good. Can you all see the screen for the slide?
Can. Perfect. Thank you, Tricia.
hmm
All right. Well, we are just after the 7 o'clock hour Eastern time zone here. And so we'll go ahead and get started. And I'll do some proper introductions here in just a short moment. But first and foremost, please allow me to express my gratitude to each of you for being on tonight and for your interest in the online MBA program at UofL. My name is Dr. Zac Goldman. I am the program director of the online MBA at UofL. And I'm joined by several of my colleagues. I appreciate them joining, and we'll ask them to speak up and share throughout the evening as we go along. But I do want to acknowledge we have our online programs office here tonight, along with our graduate programs office here tonight. And really, it's a collaborative effort to support the online MBA and to welcome our incoming students, many of which are also on the call tonight. We are eager to get to know you this evening, and we would invite you, if you are willing, to share a little bit about yourself in the chat. That's something we always enjoy doing, and we'll have opportunities. If you prefer just to unmute, you can certainly have that opportunity here in a little bit. But we do have a functioning chat tonight. We'd love to hear a little bit more about you. So in particular, where you're calling from, where you're at, what's your interest in the online MBA program. These are some things that will certainly stimulate some conversation tonight because we do have a lot that we would like to share with you. It is an information session after all. We want to make sure that you have plenty of information, whether you are a prospective student, an incoming student, somebody who's just curious about the program. I hope that tonight's time will be useful for you. We do have about an hour that we have prepared here, but we will have certainly plenty of time for Q&A. If you have questions that we don't get a chance to address, please, again, use that functioning chat. My team members will probably chime in before I can even respond there. But if not, I will certainly look at that and read those here in just a little bit, and we can go through questions either in that capacity or, like I said, having some time to unmute and share in that way as well. But Tricia, if you don't mind, go on to the next slide, please. So as I mentioned, tonight's really about answering questions, and there are two that I want to present to this group to get you thinking. And it's not two that you have to answer specifically, but I would encourage you, if you do have thoughts, particularly on this first one, I would love to hear them. I would love to read them. I'd love to know a little bit more about you, and I think my colleagues would as well, because it's a question that I think will guide so much of not just tonight's conversation, but your journey in pursuing an MBA. It is a degree that I think has an incredible value, incredible opportunities, and incredible affordances that it provides you, not just in terms of while you're earning your degree, but also certainly in the future. And so I would love to know a little bit more about, especially our prospective students on the call, but for anybody, why they're interested in an MBA, because those reasons always vary. There's always personal, professional, all kinds of in between of reasons that people are interested in an MBA or pursuing an MBA. And I think that that question really does guide a lot of why people not only pursue the degree in the first place, but why they persist, why they finish it. I recall when I entered into my graduate programs before my master's and then my PhD, my director asked me to write down, asked us all to write down those reasons. I won't necessarily make you do that or expect you to do that, but I certainly would encourage you to think about that. Why are you interested in the degree? Because that question, like I said, will really determine a lot of things for you and for the program in the future. The other thing I would encourage you to think about as we get started here tonight is what questions you have about the program. Again, this is an information session, and while I've got some slides prepared here that my colleague Tricia is helping us navigate, so again, thanks to Tricia and all the team for their support. But while we have these slides and we have some information prepared that I think will be helpful for everybody, they're based off of a lot of FAQs that we tend to get about the program over the past. I would encourage you to think about what other questions you have. Because I am an open book. I truly am. I try to be. Our team knows that. I try to be as honest and as forthcoming as I can be about all things online MBA because we're really proud of this program. It's not a perfect program, but it is one that has not only earned its reputation and recognition in places like U.S. News and World Report, it certainly has earned its place in the College of Business and the University of Louisville over the last several years. And so we'll talk a little bit about that here in just a little while. But these two questions I would encourage you to really think about. And that first one, I would love to hear your thoughts here in just a few moments, or feel free to drop those in the chat. Tricia, next slide, please. All right. So I think it might be helpful as people are contemplating those questions and just considering your own journeys to hear a little bit more about the journey of the program itself, the online MBA. I'm becoming, I guess, the historian of the program, even though I never really envisioned that about myself. I have been the only director of the program. It started back in 2019, and I subsequently became the director shortly after in 2020. And this program has grown tremendously in the time period, the 7 years or so since. I will tell you, though, that this program was not as easy to get off the ground as sometimes people may think. You imagine this was right before the pandemic, so the online learning surge hadn't quite happened yet in the way that we knew it after the pandemic, of course. But one of the things that really was a challenging point was we have an expectation at the University of Louisville for what an MBA degree means, what it consists of, what the expectations are for students and faculty, and the degree itself stands for something, especially when you travel in Louisville and you find people who have graduated from the UofL College of Business with an MBA degree. There's some expectations that come with that, and there's a reputation that comes with that. And so I will tell you, for many years, there was an ongoing debate, discussion, whether or not to have the online MBA because people worried about the quality of the degree. And so from the very get-go, and I was part of the faculty member who helped launch this program. I was part of the original curriculum committee. I can tell you the history, and I can tell you the fact that the faculty wanted to ensure that quality was baked into the very beginning of this program. Sometimes you hear online and you hear things like it's not as hard or it's not as rigorous. I can assure you this program matches the quality and the expectations of any MBA students for any U of L program throughout any time period that may have been offered. And so because we have that history, that storied history of MBAs in the College of Business for several decades, far beyond my time at the University of Louisville, we wanted to make sure that the quality matched the expectation. So that's essentially a first pillar that we started to build this program around, was quality, making sure that consistency was key. The other thing, though, I will tell you, and this is again right before the pandemic, we launched in 2019. The curriculum committee, though, started meeting 2017, 2018. And what we were realizing in that time period was that obviously online learning was becoming more and more common, but that convenience was such an important part, and flexibility was such an important part of how people make decisions. We knew at that time, and we certainly have seen in the now 1,000+ alumni who have graduated the program, that flexibility was essential, that students needed some opportunity to take these classes and earn this degree while having flexibility in their timeline, and to do it under circumstances that aligned with their life. I know so many of our students are either parents or taking care of parents or other loved ones, are involved in the community, have all kinds of travel commitments. You name it. There is a variety of reasons why people are unable to necessarily be in our building from 6 to 9 p.m. at night. And so we understand the, those pillars, flexibility and quality. We found a way back in 2018, 2019, as we launched, to make sure that those pillars could coexist. And I think that's such an important part of this program's history. Now, the bullet points you see on your screen here, I won't go through and read everything to you. I don't feel that's necessary. I feel like we can all kind of go through those things as we slide through these transitions. But I would encourage you, though, to see a couple things and how those pillars have manifested themselves into program features. So, for instance, we're entirely asynchronous. Why? Because we pride and prioritize the flexibility piece. And what that means is there's no required meeting times. Just like we started this call at 7 p.m. here, it's not something that we would expect our students to do on a regular basis, to get on a call at a certain point in time, and that you either attend it or you don't, you miss it or you do not. That's the kind of thing that a synchronous course would expect. We do record all of our sessions for those who do want to attend or not able to, but we also make that material available entirely asynchronously. The trade-off there, and the thing that people oftentimes assume with that, is that, well, that means I'm just going to be working on my own all the time independently. Yes and no. The flexibility is there, but we also embed a team model, and we'll talk more about that in the next couple of slides. So you're working with each other. My colleagues have heard me use the expression online but not alone way too many times, I'm sure, for my colleagues who have been with us for years. But yet it's an expression that goes well beyond just a few words. It's something that I truly think we believe as a faculty, we as a staff, and our colleagues as well believe that community is such an important part of what we do in the MBA program, and that's evident in the online as well as our in-person MBA offerings. Again, one of the things I'll stress here is not just the structure, which we'll get, like I said, more into in a moment. It's the people. So I'll talk briefly about our faculty here in the introduction, but I'll share more in a moment. These are faculty who are truly world-class, who are well-regarded in their disciplines, researchers at some of the highest levels of university life, who are committed and who are engaged in the online MBA program. Why do I stress that? Well, a part of it is because not all online MBAs are created equally. And I'm not going to go and kind of parse out which ones are and are not, but many of these online MBA programs that exist in the market today are using faculty who are not formally or officially or full-time associated with a particular university. And I think that matters. You want to know who you're learning from. You want to know who you're learning with. I myself, as the director of this program, have been a full-time faculty member of the College of Business for 8+ years now. And so that's something that we teach in the program, we lead the program, we're engaged in the program in a variety of ways. And I think that's something that all of our students should know. The last thing I'll say from this slide, and again, all these will kind of unpack in their own ways here over the next few minutes, is the curriculum itself has incredible depth and richness to it in terms of what you can learn, what you can specialize in, what you can focus on, including even international opportunities, travel opportunities to participate in our global trip as part of our MBA program. I'll talk much more about that because I love sharing photos and sharing stories about all the places that we've traveled to, our students have gone to, and the impact that they're having across the globe, truly, as part of this program. But that's just a sample of some of the richness and depth that our students can experience as part of the curriculum in the online MBA program. Trisha, if you go to the next slide, please. All right, so I mentioned this, but it's really worth diving into for just a few moments. What do you mean by a team model? What's that cohort idea? What is this all about, Dr. Goldman? That really is such an important question in my mind, because I truly believe, and I've even studied this in various ways and have published different articles on this topic, that learning in its purest and highest forms does not occur individually. That really learning is a social endeavor in many ways. This is why we still have classrooms, whether they be online or in person. This is why we still engage with each other, right? Peers connecting with other peers, faculty connecting with students, staff and faculty collaborating together to create environments where students can thrive. This, to me, is what learning truly looks like. It's in collaboration with each other. And so I fully embrace and fully believe that the cohort model at the University of Louisville's College of Business is instrumental to our success. It's not necessarily just who you're learning from or with, it's the relationships that inform what you're learning in the first place. And so imagine a scenario where you're working on a team project and you're working with an accountant, a marketing professional, a management executive, and I don't know, a salesperson. And then you compare all these points of view, and suddenly you've got now a well-rounded group. Any functioning team will have a perspective that differs, that varies, but yet you can look at a problem, come together to create a solution that's even better than what you would come up with individually. And I believe in that, and I think the research overwhelmingly supports that as well, is that is where and how optimal learning exists. So our teams, we built teams of 5 to 6 students. Each team is built and baked within a cohort, and so these cohorts often have multiple sections with section leaders. I'll share a little bit more about that in just a moment. But one of the things you should know is that through this experience of working with each other, and through this idea that online but not alone, you're collaborating in ways that it becomes its own extension of support system. And so many of our students we know and we talk to, I was talking to an alumni today who said, if it wasn't for some of those late night phone calls or those text messages, the group chat, that we were all exchanging and engaging in, he said, I'm not sure if I would have made it, because it's a tough program. I'm not going to undersell the toughness. I'll actually share more about the curriculum side here in just a moment. But I think it's really encouraging to know that you don't go through it alone. You're not on an island. You're not stuck in your basement looking at a computer screen wondering if I'm ever going to figure this thing out. You're going to be engaged with each other, but you're still going to have the flexibility that online has to offer. That, to me, is such an important part of what we do and how we do it at the College of Business and the online MBA program. The other thing I would say is that our students are from all over the globe and doing all sorts of things. And I really love that. And I think the next slide, if you'll go there, Tricia, illustrates that better than even I can. sorry, I missed the slide. This is our several of our alums: Raymond Shields, Sarah Lopez, Michael Henderson, three people who I think very highly of, who spoke in their own words to what it means to be part of that cohort. I won't go into depth of their words, but you can read them there for yourselves. You can take a screenshot of that. You can do whatever you would like with it, but I think they do a really good job of putting into perspective why these teams are so important. Tricia, though, next slide, if you will, I want to tie their words into this next graphic. This is the one that I think really does illustrate not only where our students are from, they come from all over, not just the United States. We do have many students living internationally, including our military members who are stationed overseas, who we work very closely with. But we also have a well-rounded representation of really all the different industries and professions and background that you expect to see in an MBA. And I think that really is important, especially because in this day and age, the challenges that businesses are facing, the opportunities that exist and that are there for businesses to take advantage of, they require multiple points of view. They really do. And so there are some MBA programs that kind of tailor themselves to engineers, as an example, or towards sales, as an example. And while you have some areas to specialize in, we'll get to that in just a moment, this is not a program that focuses exclusively or entirely on one area or one domain. It rather is a program that invites multiple perspectives, a diverse points of view. And I think you see that not just on this illustration in this slide, but you see it every day in our online conversations and in the engagements that we're having in our online learning environment. As a faculty member, that's what you want. You want to see that type of exchange, that kind of dialogue, because that's where learning is going to occur at its highest level. Tricia, if you'll go to the next slide, please. All right, I talked a little bit about the students and the people that you would be learning alongside, but who are you going to be learning from? Let me talk a little bit about the faculty, because this is a group of people who I am incredibly proud of, and I'm incredibly proud to be a part of, quite frankly, because when you work with the colleagues that I work with, you're constantly reminded how incredibly smart they are, but also how incredibly caring they are for the work that we do, the students that we are working with, and just the subject matters that we are each specializing in. So this slide here is a great example. Dr. Ryan Quinn, he's actually a faculty member in my department. I've gotten to know Ryan incredibly well over the years. He teaches our leadership and organizational behavior class, has a PhD in the subject, has just an incredible background in leadership. You should look him up when you get a chance. You'll get more information on him when you start the program. But well-regarded, well-renowned, has written books on leadership, all types of things that you can imagine that Dr. Quinn has done. But one of the things that I love about this slide, and I love about the idea of faculty in the online MBA program, is that we have paired them with what we call section leaders. Again, recall back to what I said, the cohort model baked into that is multiple sections. So not only do you get to work with Dr. Quinn, who is, again, building the class and organizing the class and working daily with students to deliver the class, he also has a team of section leaders. And so we have individualized attention being given by people who have incredible depth and expertise. Especially the thing I love about this, and I love a lot of things about our entire program, but about our section leaders in particular, is that they have a lot to offer these classes. These aren't just grading assistants. These aren't just TAs. You may have familiarity with models like that. That's not what the section leaders are. These are qualified professionals, oftentimes working full-time in their respective areas to provide you a practical lens and expertise into what you're learning in a high educational environment, right? An academic environment. And so I'll give you an example. Maybe this image is not the best. So I'll give you one maybe in a more practical, like an accounting or finance-based course. Imagine now you're learning about accounting, which we'll talk about in a moment. Trust me, for those who are accounting background or not, that always is a topic that comes up quite a bit in an MBA program. But let's say you're in your accounting class and you're learning from somebody like Dr. Julie Wong, who's a full-time tenured professor in our accounting department, well-regarded in her own ways. But one of the things I'll say about Julie, incredibly bright, but yet she and her team has qualified CPAs and professional accountants who are doing actual accounting work in multiple and major industries across the globe. In fact, next slide, if you will, Tricia, I think that will help me illustrate this point even better than my words may. So our section leaders do come from all types of backgrounds, as I said, and they represent industries and businesses much like the ones you see on your screen here. So whether it be Humana, or Yum Brands, Ford, etc. And these are just some that are relatively local to Louisville. We have section leaders as well that reflect our demographics as students. oftentimes from across the globe. And that's truly something that I think is an incredible value for our students to hear and to know about, is that you're learning from the best of the best. And that's something that I think it's hard to put a value on. Because in this day and age, when you don't know for sure what's trustworthy, what's reliable, am I getting good advice, good mentorship, bad mentorship, you want to know that you have people in your corner who not only have experienced things and lived things, but they have led some of the many courses and initiatives that you're going to be taking as a member of the online MBA program. So, Tricia, will you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So let's learn a little bit more about those courses for just a moment. And I think it's helpful just to see kind of a traditional schedule. So on this slide, you see our first, second, third, fourth, and fifth semester. I will tell you, as both the director of this program, but also a faculty member in it for a long time, we don't use semesters very often. This is one of the few slides that you see that, in part because our courses average approximately 5 weeks long in duration. Now you may be thinking to yourself, "Whoa, 5 weeks? That's a pretty quick time frame. How much can I learn in that time? How much can I absorb?" The good news is you're only taking one of those core classes at a time, so you really are able to focus in that time frame on that course. And then you take that 5 weeks, you put 5 weeks behind it, and 5 weeks behind it again. You have what is a traditional 15 to 16 week semester that most academic institutions still rely on and use today. And in that time period, because these courses are intensive, because these courses are very hands-on and engaged, you're earning 3 credit hours per course. So you're actually earning 9 credit hours per semester, which does qualify you for full-time student status, especially those who are seeking financial aid. That's something that's really important, and really does have some significant implications, along with several employee reimbursement policies or employer reimbursement policies, and lots of other implications. So we can talk more about that in our Q&A here in just a moment. But that's a traditional schedule. And I just want to walk you through, like, for instance, a first semester. Everything that you see on this screen here has a backstory. Everything. Why is this course here? Why is it not there? Why did you put this one over there? So I'll start with your first semester. You start with a course like Applied Microeconomics for Business. Some of you may have had an econ class as an undergraduate. Many of you may not have. Either way, this is considered by many, myself included, to be a bedrock, a cornerstone for how we think about business, how we understand business, why it's important to even study business in an academic environment. And the microeconomics really does offer you far more than just a history lesson of business. It does offer you, I think, very practical understandings of why supply and demand still remain such a cornerstone to how we think about the market today. It makes you think about pricing and elasticity. Why is it that certain things are priced here and there? And what drives that, and what's the elasticity of it, meaning how high can I go in a certain price before something is not deemed valuable anymore or worthy of purchasing. Now, these are all questions that have real answers to them, but they require a depth and a knowledge that Dr. Audrey Klein, who teaches that course for us, really does a great job of not just introducing students to that foundation, but welcoming them into the online MBA program. So that's your first course. You do that for 5 weeks, and you transition into yours truly, my course, Strategic Managerial Communication, which is really a course, as it might imply, that helps you think about not just how we manage and how we lead people in today's high-paced, fast-paced, dynamic workplaces with lots of information, lots of ways to get information, but it helps you think about how we manage that information, share that information, distribute that information, and lead and communicate in a way that is aligned with modern leadership. Because let's face it, so many of our leadership approaches are ones that we may have experienced coming up through our professional ranks or even our personal and academic lives. Communication is an ongoing challenge. It's an ongoing struggle. It's most organizations I talk to, and I don't think it's just because I'm biased in asking for this information. I think it's probably pretty true for a lot of places. Deal and struggle with communication challenges. It's just something that we all are needing or can improve in, and I think that this course does a great job of trying to help you think about those challenges and give you some tangible skills to improve it. Last but not least, in that first semester is your Statistics and Data Analytics course. Why that course, and how do these three things fit together? Well, again, think about what we just described. And I know I haven't detailed the statistics course yet, but I'll get to there. So you got Applied Microeconomics, which is very much a theoretical, conceptual basis. You got Strategic Managerial Communication, which gives you a lot of practical, hands-on communication skills and tools to help manage people at a very advanced level. And then you got something like statistics and data analytics, which is a quantitative course, a course that's really going to challenge you to think about the numbers, help you think about why certain numbers are the important ones to consider. And it really does give a foundation there statistically, because as you look on down the list, you're going to see those three trends, those three themes, right? Conceptual, theoretical, practical, and applied, quantitatively oriented. You're going to see those three things come up time and time and time again as you go through the rest of that sequencing. So again, all of it's very intentional. All of it's designed to serve you, our students, and to make sure that there is a clear pathway for success. I think one of the worst things that some programs still do, and I won't name names, but some programs out there, they don't help students understand why it's designed in the way that it is, because it's rarely random, right? It rarely is random. It's not often that faculty or deans or whoever else puts them together just throws stuff against the wall and says, oh, let's go with that, right? It's often very intentional, but I don't think we do a good enough job explaining why it's intentional and what the purpose of that intention is, and making sure that students understand there's been a lot of thought put into this to make sure our students are successful. And that's just one example of many that we could go into for the rest of this curriculum. But I hope that gives you some sense of how the sequencing works and how the courses all fit together to serve and to help facilitate our student success. Trisha, we go to the next slide, please? All right, I'm going to pause here actually for just a moment. I have not had a chance to keep up with the chat, so I don't know if there's anything going on in there or not. I haven't seen a lot of red bubbles coming up yet, but let me pause in there. I don't see much action occurring there yet, but let me see if there's questions before I move on, because this next slide and the ones that follow I can get pretty excited about and talk even faster than I have been, which I'm sure I've talked pretty fast already. But let me pause and see what questions folks on the call may have at this point before I move forward. Also gives me a good excuse to drink a water, because get a little parched talking as quickly and as fast as we are here. All right, so Joel asked, great question. Let's see a couple coming in, so yeah, keep them coming. Joel, how much of this program applies to the in-person MBA program offered? Yeah, it's a great question, Joel. We are sister programs in the very purest form of that word, and you won't see sister necessarily listed on the website, but what I mean by that, very parallel. We are one degree. So it is an MBA from the University of Louisville. There's no separate degree designations there. So we are very aligned. Our courses are very similar. You'll see some subtle differences in the naming of courses, and that's usually because of the way our credit hours are structured. So for instance, I just mentioned Dr. Quinn's leadership and organizational behavior course. And in the traditional or in-person MBA, those are actually two separate courses. It's leadership 1.5 and organizational behavior 1.5. Ours is leadership and organizational behavior 3.0. So it just kind of gives you a sense of how that, how those differences are subtle, but they are there in terms of how they're structured and framed. But yeah, same learning objectives, same learning outcomes. We actually complete the same assessment report. I mean, so it's pretty parallel and pretty consistent across the different modalities, and that's something that our leadership team is very committed to as we move forward. And then, yeah, Joe, I'll pick up on part two of your question, then I'll go back to Jawad's there. Same teachers, yeah, a lot of the same faculty. So again, we have a pretty big college and a lot of students to serve. So you do have some subtle differences there. But some of our faculty in the online MBA teach in the in-person program. Some of our in-person MBA student or faculty teach in the online program. And some of them just switch and swatch and flip and flop out. It just depends on semester, depends on year, depends on their teaching schedules, sabbaticals, all kinds of things. So yeah, same teachers though, pulling from the same department, same groups of people, absolutely. Jawad, what do the prerequisites look like? It's also a great question. And because we are a cohort model, we actually sequence all that prerequisites into the program. So you don't actually have to worry about prerequisites. So for instance, I'll give you a second semester rundown for a moment. Financial accounting, managerial accounting. Managerial accounting is a more advanced form, at least the way we structure it and teach it, than financial accounting is. Think of financial accounting as your kind of building blocks. What do I need to know? Debits, credits, etc. You know, it's complicated than that, but you get the idea. Your building blocks. Managerial accounting is the idea of like, well, what do I do with all that? How do I actually make sense of that? And how do I actually make the most of that? We don't teach you to be an accountant in the MBA program. We do have a Master's of Science Accounting and Analytics that does do that or helps you to do that. But it is very intentional so that you don't have to worry about the traditional prerequisites of the program. The one thing I'll say that's kind of an exception to that, We do want to make sure all of our students start with an equal kind of playing field with their quantitative background. So we do have a pre-work course in our statistics and data analytics course that's free. We don't actually charge you for that, but it is actually a resource that we provide that we ask all of our students to complete so that there is a consistent entry point into our statistics and data analytics course. And that functionally feels like a prerequisite in a lot of ways. So I want to be fair to that situation. We got some great questions coming in here. So let me try to catch up with the chat here. How easy is it, Joanne asked, to change from the online setting to the in-person? Very. I don't want to say it's just the flip of a switch, but it's, we've got great colleagues, great team members who have helped orchestrate and help make that transition in the past and will continue to do so in the future. We do spend a lot of time up front. Credit to our admissions team and our advisors to really make sure students have the best information possible so that they're making that selection up front with all their information in mind. But we realize sometimes you get into something, and this goes both ways. We've had students who start in the in-person, transition to the online. Sometimes they start online, they transition to in-person. And sometimes you just don't know until you experiment, until you experience it, until you go through it. So yeah, it is a relatively easy process in the sense that we're very familiar with it. There's really there's minimal disruption to you or your timeline of graduation. If you do it early enough, it actually doesn't delay any graduation period at all. And it's something that we're familiar with. We've got a lot of students who've gone through that kind of transition in the past. Maya asked, is there any type of classes that we will need to complete an observation or learning in the community? That's a great question, Maya. Yeah, I think there are several assignments that will take you off the screen. And that's something that we're really proud of. I mean, that applied microeconomics course that I gave you as an example, I know that Dr. Klein asks all of her students to, at minimum one time, maybe even a couple times, go to a grocery store. And again, it's not, hey, you got to go to some crazy place and do something that you wouldn't normally do. But you got to go to a grocery store. I forget the details of her assignment, but it's something to do with pricing. It's something to do with, again, the elasticity piece that I mentioned. You track some things over time. So yeah, there are some of those kinds of experiential pieces because we believe in that. I mean, you will find that there's not a lot of traditional exams per se. And this next slide that we're going to get into here in a moment actually kind of illustrates that. We don't really believe in kind of at the graduate level, especially for graduate business education, imagine trying to complete a graduate degree like an MBA and all you're doing is multiple choice exams or essays or something like that. I'm not saying you won't have some of that baked in at certain points, but we do believe in kind of hands-on experiential learning that will get you engaged in a variety of ways. And I could probably share several other examples, but I hope that helps answer your question. Joanna also asked, I have 2 BAs, one in psychology and anthropology. Will this program online in person work well with these fields? Yeah, I think so, personally, because I really don't see a field or an area that an MBA can't help with and can't add value to. And I know that probably take it with a grain of salt. This guy's been the MBA director for 7 years, but also you could take that in reverse. Like he's got some credibility to speak to that. I've seen a lot of students with a lot of backgrounds from the arts, the sciences, the traditional businesses, the non-traditional businesses, the nonprofits, you name it. I've seen folks come in with all kinds of backgrounds, all kinds of undergraduate degrees. And I think all of them in one way or another will tell you that the MBA can add value to your journey. I think it goes back to that original question, though, that I asked, right? Which is, why are you seeking an MBA? What is it that you're hoping to get out of it? Because depending on the answer to that question, I could probably better answer the question about anthropology or psychology or anything else. But I can tell you that students from every background imaginable have been successful in this program. And I think it can be a real testament to the MBA being one of the most diverse graduate degrees in the entire market. I believe that. Think about just the courses we've mentioned already: accounting, finance, marketing, econ, management, communication. I mean, you get the idea, right? There's a lot of different perspectives there in business. And so it really is a degree that welcomes and invites that type of diversity and that type of perspective. So I hope that also helped answer your question. Maya asked, how would you say the teachers are about working with work schedules? I work full-time for LMPD, so would it be flexible with getting work done due dates? First of all, Maya, thank you for your service to Louisville and to the community. I have several colleagues, friends, family members who are either police officers who have served in a variety of ways, and that's hard work, that's tough work. and I thank you for it. And I hope our colleagues will do the same. Yeah, we are flexible in a lot of ways. We do have due dates, deadlines, things like that. But I would say the flexibility is especially true on the front end. And what I mean by that is if you're going to have a due date, we won't just say, what is it, Tuesday? Maya, you got an assignment due Thursday at noon. Well, I don't know what your work schedule is, right? Your work schedule could be crazy, and you're working tonight, you're sleeping in the morning, you're working tomorrow night. It's like, well, when am I supposed to do my my assignments here? So we always try to give due dates at a minimum 1 week, oftentimes 2 to 3 weeks in advance, right? So you're going to get a lot of flexibility on the front end. Now, the converse of that, or the other side of that same coin, is you got to be good with time management, right? So if we give you 2 weeks to do an assignment, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of work in there, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of chaos and craziness, just professionally or personally or whatever else is going on. But we expect, in those time frames, we still have to uphold that 5 week windows. We still have things to keep moving forward. So we're flexible, certainly, but we're also accountable. And I think that certainly somebody in your background, somebody who's served, understands you got to have both, right? You got to have a little bit of flexibility and a little bit of give and take. But at the same time, you also have to have some structure, some deadlines, and things like that. So we do both, and we believe in both amongst our faculty, and I think that's true for a lot of my colleagues. Man, those are great questions, you all. That was awesome. I don't get that kind of rapid fire, just great question after great question. So thank you, and hold that thought, because I'd love to maybe get one more round of that here in just a few moments. But I do want to talk about the slides for just a final couple slides. There's 2 or 3 here that I want to finish on. One of which is you've been staring at for a little while now, the Cardinal Choice designation. Cardinal Choice is, man, my colleagues know this is near and dear to the heart for a couple of reasons. Number one, this is an initiative that transcends the entire program. It really does. It starts in your first class and runs through the final class of your core curriculum. And it feels in many ways like the thread that ties it all together. But the beauty of it is it's a thread that you choose. It's a thread that you can choose based on your interests. It's not a thread that I, Dr. Goldman, or anybody else will assign you or tell you or force you to do, but rather it's an opportunity. And I really want to stress this for a moment. It's an opportunity to tailor your degree around something that you genuinely and truly care about. And I've studied MBAs. I've studied graduate degrees. I have actually published articles on graduate education. And I can tell you that one of the things that is fairly true across the board is that there is a lack of choice in a lot of key areas in the graduate education market. And what I mean by that, not choice in terms of programs, right? There are 400 plus, I believe, 450 now, I think, U.S. News and World Report ranked online MBA programs, right? There's a lot of choice with the programs. But when you get into that program, it's like you're going to do this assignment, you're going to complete this assessment, and you're going to do this thing, and then we'll give you this grade, right? That's where the choice is lacking. It's lacking there at that level. And one of the things that we did, and we were very intentional about, several years in the making of building an initiative that baked in choice for our students. So if they wanted to apply their MBA toward their career and specifically focus on, like, how do I advance my career with this degree? Then you're going to have an opportunity to do that. There's going to be classes, or there's going to be assignments in each of your core classes that you're going to be able to tailor what you're building, what you're doing, how you're learning to your career. And you build something, and I'll share this on the next slide. You'll build something into a comprehensive career plan that will really help set you up for long-term success. That's an option. That's something you can do. And it doesn't matter what your career goals are, as long as you're willing to think through them, define them, and set up a plan to execute it and pursue them. So that's one track that you can pursue. Some people don't necessarily want to think in terms of themselves or their careers. Some people want to think about kind of the scope or the circumstances surrounding them, right? And I, for one, kind of think that way now at this point in my career. I'm not as much concerned, although I certainly think about it from time to time, about my own career, where it's going and what direction and where I would like to be and all that stuff. I think much more about the state of my industry, higher education. There's a lot of change right now in higher education, maybe more so than ever before. And so I'm constantly fascinated by certain trends, certain things happening that are affecting everybody that I know, right? Students, faculty, staff. And that's kind of my interest in the moment. So if I were going through this program right now, I would really consider that industry track, because it would give me an opportunity to explore higher education from the lens of finance and accounting and marketing and all the things that I think are important parts of this industry and many others. The last one, and some people are much more interested in problem solving. What I just said is more of an academic pursuit. Like I want to understand something. But some people already understand it. They just want to fix it. They want to solve it. They've been dealing with it for a while, and they're wanting to address an issue. That's the issue track. That's the third of the three options, and that too has a lot of flexibility within it. So sometimes people choose an issue that their organization is experiencing. Maybe they're dealing with high levels of turnover, and they're trying to figure out what's going on there. How do I reduce turnover and get people retained longer? Sometimes, though, it's a more systemic issue. Sometimes it's something that, I had a student once do a report on sustainability. And it was really interesting because this particular student was, for the issue track, was in the tobacco industry. And I had never really thought about, I don't think about the tobacco industry very often, but within the tobacco industry, what sustainability even looks like, right? Because I just don't give that much consideration. This student explored that topic and that issue because they were having to deal with several new initiatives. They had several regulations and governance compliance things that they had to meet, and it was causing a variety of challenges within their organization. So fascinating stuff, right? All that can be explored, whether it be that level of specificity or just kind of zooming back out again to look at a healthcare industry or an automotive industry or whatever else that you're into with the industry track, or like I said, the career track, taking a more personal look at yourself and your career and your professional journey. I think each of these options present a lot of flexibility, which was indeed the idea, right? The cardinal choice designation is that we want to give choice to those students who choose to UofL, and how they apply and what they're applying learnings to. So Tricia, next slide, please. All right. The other choice that you have, especially in the online MBA program, but even really in all of our graduate programs, is the electives that we offer. We have a truly incredible portfolio of electives. Last I checked, consistently, I think we've averaged over 50 plus electives in the online MBA the last 5 years. That is remarkable. In a day and age where everything's getting more efficient, more compressed, more limited options, the fact that our leadership team, our dean's office, and many others have supported this choice, this portfolio of choice for our students to find topics that interest them and advance their understandings in ways that are truly unique and remarkable, especially in an age now where things are changing fast. I mean, you see in the sample of electives, we offer a lot of courses now in AI. When we first started this program back in 2019, that was not something that we had a lot of courses in. And now, obviously, over the last couple of years, that's been an incredibly big focal point for not just us. Obviously, we live and are reflective of the world around us. And so we see that as being such an important part of the disruption and transformation happening in a lot of businesses today. So we address that in our electives, and we have offered a lot of courses in that space over the last couple of years. One of the other things, though, that I think is really unique about the University of Louisville's College of Business is our certificate portfolio that we have embedded, essentially, that students can earn an additional credential, that of a graduate certificate, as part of their elective credits. So as an example, you are required as a UofL MBA student to take 45 total credit hours to get your MBA degree. The majority of students, there's a few that come in with some transfer credits, but the majority, overwhelmingly, of students take 45 credit hours from the UofL to get their MBA degree. 36 credit hours of that is your core. So 4/5 are courses that are core to an MBA. Your accounting, your finance, your marketing, your management, your econ, your supply chain, all that stuff. But you have 20% of your degree that you can use toward an additional credential, free of charge, no additional tuition. You don't pay anything on top of what you're already paying in terms of your tuition for your MBA degree, but you can get a graduate certificate in business of healthcare, distilled spirits, franchise management, horse racing industry, managerial analytics. And I don't think it's premature because I do know it's been approved to also add to this list in the coming year that we will also be offering an entrepreneurship certificate. Which is not featured here on the certificate, or the list. But as the chair of the Department Chair of Management and Entrepreneurship, I'm incredibly excited about that. I think it's going to be an incredible addition to the portfolio for our students to have that opportunity should they want to pursue something more along the lines of an entrepreneur. And so there's so many opportunities there, whether it be just in our standalone courses that you can take a combination of to get to that 9 credit hours, or our certificates, which are pre-packaged and pre-prepared to be 9 credit hours and satisfy your elective credits. You will have choice in how you want to conclude your degree and earn your elective credits in the online MBA program. Next slide, Patricia. for last. This last because I know I'll eventually run out of time, and I won't spend the entire time talking about how much I love traveling with our students and how great these experiences are. But I did mention it is, I think, a really important distinction in a day and age in which a lot of programs are no longer offering international experiences. University of Louisville College of Business remains committed to being able to offer our MBA students an opportunity to travel internationally and to participate in a global trip as part of their MBA program. And I think that's incredible. And that includes our online MBA program, by the way. But fun fact, I'm very prideful of this. If you don't pick up on that, online MBA students tend to be the highest representation of all the different programs and modalities in these international trips. And I think that's awesome because not only are they getting that flexibility and that convenience piece that we mentioned, they're still getting those experiences, those connections, those friends, those community members that many of times they will be connected to for years on end. How do I know that? I'm ashamed / kind of selfishly prideful to say that there's still like a dozen group messages that I'm in that have gone on for years. And some of you are like, that sounds painful. It kind of is. Some of them I've muted just to help stay productive. But the idea being that you're going to stay connected with peers and colleagues and team members through these experiences that you have internationally. We go all over the globe. You get credit for doing it, by the way. There is a non-travel option for students who are unable or who do not wish to travel, so you're not penalized in any way by not doing it. But I always say, like, don't you want to? Like, it's such an incredible opportunity, and it's such a great experience. And you'll learn so much more about it. Our team members do an incredible job of giving you information, walking you through it. There's information sessions, much like this one, that are designated specifically for global trips. You have an extended period of time to think about it before making your decision. I will go ahead and tell you, we already know more or less when these trips are. They're always in May. They're usually the second to third-ish week. We obviously don't mess with Derby. You can't mess with Derby at all. We also don't mess with graduation. We try not to. And so it's usually right after that. And so that kind of gives you a ballpark. And of course, when you get started in the program, our team does give you the dates and starts to help you think about whether or not that's something you would like to do. But these photos, I think, barely even do it justice. I've been fortunate to travel to myself personally, Argentina, Chile, Cambodia, Thailand, Dubai, missing something in there. It'll come to me. But these are just experiences that not only will I remember, I know the students who we traveled with and the students who have traveled all over the world I'll remember as well. So just, again, cannot stress enough how potentially transformative these trips can be and how much they really do help shift your mindset in a lot of ways. Because it's not just sightseeing and group photos. I mean, you obviously do some of that, but it is also experiencing business on a global scale. It's going and meeting with. I know I was thinking about this the other day. One of the most profound AI conversations I've been a part of in the last couple of years, which is saying something because I've been a part of probably AI conversations every day for the last couple of years, has been in a rooftop or near a rooftop. We were on like 100 and something floor of a skyscraper in Bangkok, Thailand. And it was with the Boston Consulting Group. They have a station there. And I can tell you, like, there was some light bulbs that not only came on for me, I watched as our students just had some experiences there, not just working and listening and engaging with AI, but to hear about how some of these senior leaders on a global business were using AI and how they were anticipating using AI in the next couple of years. It's one thing to read about those things. It's one thing to learn about those things online and have these conversations in various ways. It's a whole nother thing to sit there and experience it for yourself in that kind of environment. And so that's just one of hundreds of examples that I can share and why I believe so much in these trips and why I think they're such an important part of the education that we offer at the College of Business. Next slide, Tricia, please. All right, so last but not least, and I want to turn it over to a couple of my colleagues if they have anything they would like to offer on this. Time is, of course, of the essence, especially because the cohort model that I mentioned, there's pros and cons. I try to stress a lot of the pros. One of the cons is that we only have 2 start dates a year. You miss those windows, we are waiting around for you for a little while. So, I really want to stress one of them that's coming up here, which is our fall start date. We have a deadline, a final deadline. We did pass, of course, the priority deadline already. That is our priority deadline for scholarships and for applications. But we do still have a very small window here in the next couple of weeks for students who are interested in starting in the fall of 2026. So just a few weeks remaining. In fact, I want to turn it over to Claire. I know I see some Claire chat bubbles coming in, so she may be chiming in that way. Or Claire, I don't know if you want to unmute and share a few additional thoughts on this and the upcoming deadlines that are looming.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so the priority deadline has passed, but we do accept applications through August 1st. So if you're thinking about starting this fall, there is still time. We will get into the application requirements in a little bit. But if you want to maybe not start this fall and start in the spring, then we have a priority deadline of November 1st. And then for our domestic students, so if you are a US citizen, US student, then your deadline is December 1st. And if you have questions about deadlines or anything like that, feel free to leave them in the chat or you can ask and unmute too. But yeah, there's still time to apply.
Thank you, Claire. And I think maybe the next slide may ask you to speak a few things on there as well, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so when you generally apply to any of our programs, specifically the online MBA, you are automatically considered for merit-based scholarship. So this is looking at your application materials. You don't have to submit a separate scholarship application to be considered, and it's up to $5,000 in internal funding. We also accept outside scholarships or external scholarships. So if you find a scholarship through a community or if you're a part of an organization and they, offer funding that you can apply to, you can also apply to that and it can be stacked on top of your merit-based scholarship. Some employers also offer tuition assistance. They can do, like sometimes they will pay up front, sometimes they will pay you back, sometimes they have professional development funds. So it's definitely worth looking into your employer to see if they will cover any tuition for additional funding. And then if you are interested in financial aid, then we just suggest that you submit the FAFSA, which is the federal aid form. That will basically determine how much funding you are eligible for through the state or federal government. And then most of the time with the graduate program, it is just loans. There's less grant money available for graduate programs, but there are also loan options for domestic and international students. Um, with any of our programs, you're also able to have a payment plan. So, it can be kind of sectioned out in different like payments through monthly payments or tuition, through semester payments, anything like that. But we normally just refer students to our financial aid office because they are the experts in any of the payment plans or tuition breakdowns or anything like that. But there is definitely funding available for students. We don't want the reason that you can't pursue an education to be because of funding.
I appreciate that, Claire. And I think if memory serves, we may have one more slide, which may be a good summary of things, especially for our checklist.
Yeah, so this is our admission checklist. So if you were thinking about applying, we do require a couple things. First is that you just start an application online. We have a pretty seamless application. You just submit your general information, and then through there, you will just type in your 2 letters of recommendation, your contact for that. We require two. It can be a supervisor, a manager, someone from an academic situation if you're close with an academic advisor or someone from undergrad, anyone that is just not family or friends. We also require a professional resume, and then there will be 2 short answer questions in the application. I think there's 6 or 7 options. We just require you to pick 2. And then a personal statement of why you were interested in pursuing a master's degree, specifically an MBA, why you chose the University of Louisville, any of your goals, your work experience that you want to highlight, really anything that we can't already tell from your application. It gives you a chance to expand upon or just talk about you as a person, why you want to pursue an MBA. And then we require college transcripts. So from every college that you've attended, even if you have one class of transfer credit from a college, from undergrad, we do require all college transcripts. If you went to UofL and graduated from UofL, we will automatically pull those, so you don't have to worry about that. And then if you are an international student, we will require an English language proficiency exam, like the TOEFL or the Duolingo. you can kind of see the scores that are the benchmark for that. And then we don't require an admission test, so a GMAT or a GRE is not required, but strong scores can have you considered for higher scholarship. I know that was a lot of information, so if you have questions, let me know. I can see some in the chat. Um, it does not have to be anyone prior to undergrad for the recommendations. It can be anyone in a professional realm that you've worked with. If you're not, communicating with anyone from undergrad anymore, like you do not have to use them as a recommender. It can be someone in a professional realm and not an academic realm.
Thank you, Claire. Great question, Maya. If you'll go, Tricia, to the last slide, please. So some contact information here. Claire and many of our team members are part of, again, that graduate programs office, that their email address, that it can be reached, mba@louisville.edu. So any of those questions, whether it be admission or any of the other ones that Claire mentioned, or really just any of the questions that you may have, they're a great starting point. And if it's a question that is best answered by me or a member of our online team, they can certainly help relay that. Otherwise, our online program specific questions, bizonline@louisville.edu is a great contact for that. And then my information right there on the screen as well. My personal email, my phone number there. Feel free to screenshot that. Please feel free to write it down. You can also find that pretty much anywhere online. That's all over the place. So feel free to reach out if you have questions beyond what we were able to cover tonight. We do have a few extra minutes. And so I'll see if that's if anybody does. But I want to draw attention while we have a moment to Claire's chat in there. She did just put a chat code for a waiver to the application fee. There is a $65 application fee if you were to go online and haven't done that already. If you go in and put that code that she just put there in the chat, that will waive that fee for you. So that is very much something that is a reflection of our appreciation for you being here tonight and making some time to learn a little bit more about the program. Joanna, and there's a couple others I think maybe coming in, so I'll try to get to these while we still have a few minutes. Joanna asked, can we get more than one graduate certificate? Yeah, it's a great question. Comes up quite a bit, actually. My colleagues always laugh at me when I answer this question. In theory, yes, to an extent. There is a maximum of credit hours that one can take per semester that I'm allowed to waive up to a certain amount, but to get two certificates, if you do the math, that's 9 credit hours per each certificate. That's 18 credit hours total. That's exceeding what I'm actually allowed to approve as the director of the program. So that would go to the provost office. That's a different approval process. I will tell you that very few have tried to do that, and even fewer have succeeded in doing that because it's just a lot of credit hours. And it ends up burning a lot of people out. It's not to say it can't be done, but it's certainly something that I would not advise per se. The good news is, though, when you become an alum, we do have discounted tuition rates for our alums taking elective credits. So that's something down the road that we can talk about. But yeah, great question. Jawad, business healthcare certificate is perfect. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that, and it's been one of our fastest growing certificates for a lot of people. So I think that's definitely true. Muhammad said, pacing question. I wonder if classes can all be taken before mid-May as I start the ABSN program. I was hoping to get the master's in the year if possible. Does business management degree all right? So yeah, unfortunately, because we are a cohort model, we don't actually offer a lot of different pacing options. It does, you complete it together as a cohort, and the faculty are only available as well at certain points of the year that we set the schedule for. So unfortunately, we don't. That's part of the pros and cons. Like I said, there's good things that come with working in teams. There's also some limitations, and one of them is that we don't have the flexibility to just kind of ramp up, ramp down for everybody independently. But reach out to me if you're still interested. We can definitely have some conversations, about how that might work and how you could time it with your other program. We do have students who are either currently or dual enrolled students or otherwise who have multiple degree programs that they're pursuing, and we can try to figure out the best way to support you in that regard. Yeah, great questions from everybody tonight. I see maybe one or two more. Yeah, some just interest in the certificates. There's some really interesting certificates there and opportunities. They're what make Louisville in a lot of ways. So I love that's resonating with the folks on the call tonight. I appreciate that. Yeah, Jawad, a link to the application. Claire, I don't know if that's something you can drop in the chat or not. If not, I do believe each of you will be getting a copy or a follow-up email from the team with a recording link that has all this information embedded in it. And I believe that will also be providing an application link at that time. So I think certainly in a follow-up email, you should be getting that, Jawad. But I think if anybody has one readily available, we can drop that in the chat. Perfect. Claire is on the spot. She's quick, and I appreciate the promptness of Claire, of Trisha, who's on the call and been supporting our slides. Thank you, Trisha, and thank you as well to everybody again who took time to be here tonight. We're just after the 8 o'clock hour, so I'm going to go ahead and offer a quick concluding thought, which is that we hope to see you in the online MBA program very soon. But if you do have any questions that we have not had a chance to address tonight, please reach out to us or our team. We look forward to answering those. Go Cards, take care. See you soon. And yeah, thank you all for your time tonight. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, everyone.